Hey everyone and welcome. Today we're going to talk about a whole new way to think about learning science. We're going to move past just cramming facts for an exam and dive into what it means to actually, truly understand something, to the point where even the most complex ideas become clear, simple, and honestly pretty cool.
This, right here, is our guiding principle. It's the whole foundation for what we're about to get into. Instead of just being able to rattle off a bunch of definitions, we're going to get to the why behind them. And trust me, making that one simple shift, it changes absolutely everything.
All right, let's make this real with a perfect example, the human heartbeat. I mean, we all feel it happening, right? But understanding how it works, well, that's where this whole idea of conceptual clarity really comes to life.
So what's the deal? What's really going on in there? Is it just a muscle doing a push-up over and over? Well, the answer is so much more elegant, so much cooler than that. It's actually this beautifully coordinated symphony of electricity and chemistry. Let's break it all down.
Okay, so it all kicks off with something called the sinoatrial node, or the SA node. But let's not get bogged down by the fancy name. All you need to remember is that this is the initial spark. This tiny little bundle of cells is the heart's very own natural pacemaker, and it's its job to create an electrical signal that gets the whole show on the road.
So you've got this spark, and that one little spark kicks off this incredible four-step symphony. First, the SA node fires. Then, that electrical signal spreads across the heart's upper chambers. You know, exactly like when people do the wave in a stadium. Now, as that electric wave washes over the muscle cells, it triggers step 3, the chemical key. Calcium ions rush into the cells, and they act like tiny keys that unlock the contraction. And finally, with all the cells unlocked, you get the big finish, a powerful, unified squeeze. And that is the heartbeat that pumps blood to your entire body. It's a perfect performance, and if any step is out of tune, that's where problems start.
So you see, it's just a beautiful, logical flow. You've got an electrical spark, which creates a spreading wave, which triggers a chemical unlock, and that results in a physical contraction. It's a perfect chain reaction. And once you really get that sequence, you don't have to struggle to memorize a bunch of random facts. You get it. You understand the whole machine.
Okay, so why does all this matter, besides just being super interesting? Well, here's the kicker. This kind of deep understanding is your secret weapon for absolutely crushing those high-stakes exams. Let's see how this clarity translates into real performance.
Because when you have this kind of clarity, you're not just studying to scrape by anymore. You're studying for mastery. And that is a huge mental shift. It's about going from just trying to pass to truly owning the material.
All right, let's put this to the test. Let's make it real. Picture this. You're in an exam, and you get a case study. A patient comes in with an irregular heartbeat. You're given all the data, the vitals, the lab results, the whole shebang. Now, the question they're asking isn't, hey, what fact did you memorize from page 256 of the textbook? No, it's, how are you going to use what you understand to solve this puzzle? Your deep understanding now becomes your #1 tool. And here's the game plan. First, you just analyze the data. What are the numbers telling you? Then you connect the dots. You go back to our little symphony. Spark, wave, key, squeeze. Where in that chain of events did something go wrong? Was the spark faulty? Was the wave uneven? And that process, that logical deduction, leads you right to step 3, formulating a diagnosis based on actual evidence. That's how you go from just memorizing to actually thinking like a professional.
And you know, this goes way beyond the exam hall. This is about connecting what you learn to the world around you, making it something you can actually use in your day-to-day life.
It's about closing that gap between what's in the book and what's happening in reality. You're not just studying hematology anymore. You're finally understanding what things like anemia or your own immunity are all about. You master physiology, and suddenly you can connect it to your own wellness. And maybe best of all, you can look at a lab report for a family member, and it's not just a bunch of numbers. You actually get what it's saying.
Because that's the moment, right? That's when education stops being a chore and becomes genuinely powerful. It's when it finally connects and clicks with your life.
But you know, with that kind of understanding, with that power, comes something else, responsibility. Because this isn't just about getting smarter, it's about becoming a better, more thoughtful person.
And that's really the end goal here. The idea isn't just to make scientists, it's to help shape responsible and ethical professionals. This knowledge has to be guided by a real sense of what's right, by integrity and by a deep respect for people.
So, I want to leave you with this question to think about. Knowing what happens in the body, that's knowledge. But understanding why it happens,
That's wisdom. So when you start chasing that wisdom, are you just becoming a better student? Or are you becoming the kind of person you'd want to trust with your own life?
Look, this is more than just a tuition platform. We really see it as a learning journey. So if you're ready to make that shift, to go from just knowing things to truly understanding them, we would love to hear from you. Thanks so much for joining me.